Let's cover today. We got some good questions that came in that I'm going to be able to get to, and I've also got an agenda that I kind of want to get into myself. What I'm going to start with is there's a course coming out the next 2 Wednesdays. It's the same topic or same content, I should say, both days. So it's kind of like optional. You split it up and do half this Wednesday, the 16th, and the next one, the 23rd, or just kind of do one or the other. But list to last is what it's called, and it's at 2 o'clock. Probably be about a 3 hour course. That's hosted by, I'm pretty sure Gary Keller will be on it, but I know Jason Abrams is kind of grown to be his right hand man. This Wednesday, the 16th at 2 o'clock, and then it's offered again the following Wednesday, the 23rd.
Is it?
It's online, so you can stream it anywhere. Yep. So I'll get that out to you but it should be, it was on Molly's newsletter, I believe. But you can stream it anywhere. I'm pretty sure the Market Center will be streaming as well. These are like, this is a big part of why you're here at this company. This information that comes down from this brain trust that we have access to, like I take it and then help lead, people like yourselves, right? And it's just like you can get direct to the source in terms of stuff that you're going to need to know for the listing and seller side of your business, really for your career from here. So this is like a can't miss type of opportunity to really take advantage of, and it's just unparalleled experience in the industry. Okay, like the stuff that we have access to is truly unparalleled, and here's an example of it. So, I want to, where do I want to start here? I want to come back to your value proposition. Okay, I think it was 2 weeks ago when I covered it, and I think it's just to reiterate this kind of cliche but necessary term that we have to use for our business. And I say cliche because it's like, a chapter in the textbook, and we can understand that it's important, and I better be providing value, and I better be able to articulate, why I am valuable to the people that are going to work with me. But it's almost like, well, okay, when do I use that? Right? Like I'm going to do this homework to build a value proposition. When do I use it? And what I had said a couple of weeks ago was to treat it as the answer to the question of why should I work with you? Or why should I pay you 3% when somebody else is willing to do it for 2%? Right? And this value proposition that you create for yourself is ultimately what that answer to a question like that is going to be. So I'm encouraging you to look at this from an aspect of like, what is it that you're going to tell a client when they give you an objection, or they're asking you, to convince them to work with them. And how I want you to craft this is that it should be about that. What value and benefit they're going to gain by working with you versus I sell the most homes out of anybody. And me, right? Now, don't get me wrong, there'll be elements of like what you're going to do to benefit them. But your track record of sales, unless you can articulate a way that that turns into a benefit to them individually, other than experience wise, doesn't really matter. They want to know what you're going to do for them to help them individually with their transaction in their life, not about, how great your business is, right? So think of it in that nature. I read something I want to share with you that kind of got my wheels going more on this. This is kind of a random blurb out of context, but this is going over what clients expect today, right? Buyers today are smarter than ever. They've already Googled the school district, checked public records, stalked neighbors on Instagram, watched 10 YouTube videos on what it's like to live in the area before they even call you. By the time they reach out, They're not looking for a Wikipedia entry. They're looking for a strategist. They want to know how this purchase fits into their 5-year plan. They want insight on where the market is going, not just where it's been. They want access to inventory, off-market deals, and other opportunities they wouldn't find without you. And they want guidance that transcends a specific block radius. Neighborhood knowledge is table stakes. Clients want to know, can you negotiate? Can you market in a way that actually drives demand? Can you protect me from overpaying or from underpricing and leaving money on the table? The context of where this came from was an article around like, we got to do more than just be the local neighborhood expert. Now, context to that I'll offer is keep in mind or understand that in a lot of other bigger markets, say like New York City, right, for example, there'll be real estate agents that like never live or never leave their borough, right? And even more hyper local than that, like it's like really neighborhood specific that agents sell only to, compared to our market where it's like, yeah, you can cover a 6-county radius in one day's time and be on, you know, all the way far east and all the way far west in another in the same day. In a market like New York City or San Francisco where traffic is heavy, that's just not possible. So keep that in mind when the context of where that blurb came from is like, hey, be more than just the local, neighborhood expert and know all the coffee shops and know, what this street has and what that street doesn't, things of that nature. You have to take it a step further in terms of value that you're providing to your people. To play into this topic further, I want to talk about, and it's going to be great for everybody to build the muscles around this right now, early on in your career, versus having to backtrack, is a lot of the conversations that I'm having with experienced agents on this topic. But I want you to be slow to qualify or slow down the process when you're qualifying a potential buyer or seller. And what I mean by that specifically is that they especially want you to slow down getting to the point where you're bringing up the financial part of the discussion. Now, first of all, this is information that you need, but if you just come out of the gate swinging for the fences and looking to get the financial details of every person that's in front of you without building rapport, without building trust, without asking any other questions, you're strictly in sales at that point, right? And they're going to likely see right through it. At least I would. I want you to put yourself in their shoes as a consumer, right? And if it's just like you're curious to get into the market and buy your first home, and you're not really sure where to start, and you land in front of a real estate agent somehow to start the process, because that's how you want to go about it, is to have representation, which is good. But your first experience is just like, coming from the agent of, okay, is this person going to buy right now or not? I need to know so that I can act accordingly, is how the agent's coming off. And not doing anything to really build rapport, build trust, find out about them and what they want and what they need and how they want to go about it and who's involved and when they want to do something and where they want to live and what's important to them in the house that they want to buy and the process overall. And it's just direct to the point. And like, are you financially qualified so that I can work with you or not? And that's how you come across. You're going to struggle. You're going to struggle. Now, there's a balance between going, too deep with your digging that annoys people, right? To where it's just like you're asking endless amounts of questions that, they get to, it's kind of like, get to the point here. Like, my 2 cats' names and my children's names and my whole, life history. Is that relevant with this stage of the game, right? There's a balance between too much and too little on the digging side to build that initial rapport and perform ultimately that first step of the consultation process that we're encouraging is to perform a needs analysis and get to know the person and build the trust and get to a point professionally where it's like, yeah, I can help you. We can make that happen. What you want exists and it's going to be possible to get. And don't get me wrong, like, gosh, you need to bring up the financial aspects of the transaction. Just do it right out of the gate. You can still do it in the same first interaction or conversation that you're having. Just do it after you get a better sense from them that you've earned their trust to ask personal financial details. Because again, the consumer experience of just like, okay, this agent just wants to know if they're going to sell me this house today that I'm asking about or not, doesn't leave them wanting to work with you. And frankly, you don't know whether you should be working with them or not. At least intently to write an offer on that house based on not knowing what the timing of their needs are and or everything else that you could fill in that equation. Does that make sense? So I'm like talking on both sides of my mouth here, right? Because it takes a balance and like you don't want to go too far into something without financially qualifying. But if you just in your first conversation, like, are you pre-qualified or not? Are you working with an agent right now or not? Did you sign a buyer agency agreement right now or not? How much cash do you have? If you're buying with cash, show me proof with one. And you haven't earned trust or built rapport to where that's going to be a working with relationship anyway. You're just kind of cementing that decision for the consumer. Thoughts, questions? Yeah. Everybody in Zoom land have any thoughts, questions?
I'm listening, Jason. I
Okay.
got no questions. No questions.
Yeah.
No questions, Jason. No questions on that, but can I ask a question? It's a little different.
Sure.
Can I ask what when people put up a listing, sometimes they have a brokers open. What's the purpose of the brokers open?
There's no marketing for the property. The true intention of it would be that, there's I mean, not necessarily true intention, but I think it's most commonly originated from, say, a unique property that may not have all the foot traffic right out of the gate, like we see in this market, frankly, to whereas, 35 showings in the first week, probably don't need a broker's open for that property because the brokers that would go to that open house for agents and probably bring their clients to it based on that showing activity, right? So something that maybe it doesn't sell right away, maybe it's at a higher price point, more luxury market, more unique property where, part of your job as a listing agent becomes to make sure that not only do all the buyers out there for the property know about this property and are exposed to it and, in a position to determine their interest, but also all the agents that would be representing the buyers or could be, and especially the agents that, sell in that location to make sure that they're tuned into it.
Thank you.
Yep. Question. All right. There's conceptual versus actual coaching here, right? And I'm talking about a concept of your value proposition, but you need to actually craft one and be able to answer the question on the spot. Hey, why should I work with you? It is answered via using your value proposition as the content for the answer. So here's how I want you to think about going about and crafting this for yourself is to think about 3 bullet points, topics, concepts, whatever, that you could, craft further with after deciding like, this is what I want to achieve for my people and how I want to provide value for the people that I'm working with. And that'll help bring this together to where, you can get to a point of being able to easily articulate this because you need to. Because I'm telling you, new agents in this program, especially, this year, like you don't have the context of what played out last year and before with all these lawsuits that led to the changes of, requiring buyer agency agreement and things of that nature. But the intended consequence of that is going to be that the consumers are negotiating their commission that they're paying you for. They're going to be cognizant of the cost of what it takes to transact with a real estate agent. And they're going to push back over time. They're going to ask you, you want to charge me 3%. Another agent that was here yesterday wants to charge me 2%. What's the difference and why should I work with you and not them for $3,000 more on a $300,000 sale? You're either going to be stuck caught in the tracks and not able to answer that question without a value proposition, or you have one that you can speak to them.
Is it possible to do 2 days, like, how do you prove that you can negotiate?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great point, right? And generally speaking, so as your experience goes, you'll have stories to tell. So keep that in mind, that each transaction, each interaction, each experience that you create for yourself in this business becomes a story to tell to prove the point that you're making. It doesn't, and it's more effective with storytelling than it is like a statistic of like, I've negotiated these 10 deals in these addresses. Well, they don't know the story behind it. So it's just, again, you're kind of touting accolades versus, relatable, storytelling. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Do you have another? Was there another thing? No, was it? Sorry.
Wait,
But-
Jason. So,
Go ahead.
so if someone does ask, like, why should we work with you? As a newer agent, we might not hold, the most amount of leverage. How could we answer that?
Well, I want you to know that you do have leverage, even if you don't have experience or you're brand new to the system. In that you're a part of a company with 375 other agents at all various experience levels that you're tapping into. And you're a part of a program with a leader that, arrogantly speaking, sells the most homes in the county, in the state, actually. And that experience is trickling down, and that support is directly trickling down to be able to help you and your clients, and that you're not going at this alone. And you're a part of the company that is known as a training company that just happens to be in the business of selling real estate. And that's how I'm learning, and that's what I have access to. So yeah, even though you don't have the direct experience and sales track record to speak to, leverage the company that you're with and the program that you're in to your benefit to be able to speak to, what you're actually going to be doing to help them, get them to the finish line, make it a great experience, make it all successful. Because that's the reality, is that you're tapping into what's in front of you to be able to help your people. You just got to tell the story behind that. Is that helpful?
Yes, that makes sense. Thank you.
Is anybody hearing that be like, that's a load of BS? Good. It's not. Because the reality is, you're all new. And that's okay. And the reality is that if you're at this point in the conversation with whoever is in front of you, there's a good chance that they know that you're new. And they're okay with it. And they're considering giving you a shot. Otherwise, you wouldn't be this far to where like you're in a position where you have to defend your value, right? So now it's time to win or lose. And that's why this becomes important. So I would encourage you to, do the homework here, so to speak, right? And either come up with something that you craft individually that I can review and give you feedback on, or start by, coming up with a few bullet point types of topics or concepts to be in a position to get, again, feedback on and ideas on further to further craft and you know, customized to what you want to use. I read this quote, I'm gonna share it. The difference between a thousandaire and a millionaire is implementation. Okay, so you can hear all this stuff and you can be here on this call right now and in here in this room, and good for all of you. Okay, good for all of you, because you know, you represent I don't know, a tenth of the people in this program, and that's okay for those that are listening to it on the recording. Good for you too for taking the time to listen to the recording. Okay, but that's not good enough. You have to implement. Can't just stay in a conceptual world and learn and learn and learn and learn and learn and learn and keep learning and not get into action and not take the steps. You have to actually do the stuff that we're talking about in order for it to be effective and to play out. Otherwise, you're just getting a great education. Don't get me wrong. That's good. Learning's always good, right? But if you want to be a business owner and you want to be a successful business owner, you're implementing, you're executing. Okay, so you need to go out and break stuff and do and fail and come back with the feedback from it and find out, you know, how to do it at a better level the next time, just to seek a better result. But it requires that implementation. All right. I want to talk. I've got some questions that came in, so I want to touch on this first, and then we'll go kind of some questions, storytelling type of time. You know, kind of a segue off of what I just mentioned, but we need to talk about getting into action. Okay. And we need to talk about, you know, this dirty, almost 4-letter word that it comes across as of lead generation. And we need to talk about how to do it. Now, you've really got two options in terms of how to lead generate. Well, three, and one of them would just be don't do it at all and hope that osmosis plays out and somehow, you know, your database of people just is searching the New York State licensing website and saw that you got licensed and it's going to remember you for their real estate needs, right? Obviously, that's not going to happen. Take it a step further on that same analogy would be like you made the first call, you sent out the welcome letter or the letter welcoming you to the industry, made that post on social media, you got into real estate, and now it's been a couple weeks, couple months, couple years later, and no action since. Nobody owes you anything to remember that you're their real estate resource based off that limited amount of activity. Nobody owes you anything, period. So the concept becomes the only chance that you have is to get to a point where you've cemented yourself as their real estate resource that they remember at all times, and you're cemented. And then you got to make sure that cement stays solid by saturating them with value and or, you know, personal relationship stuff for the rest of your career. As soon as you stop this, whatever effect you've built up with each individual over the course of career leading up to that point will start to diminish. Meaning, if you go in the next 5 years strong and really stick to the model here and lead generate and market to your people at a high level, and business is cranking in year 5 and like you're killing it, and you're doing $10 million in sale and you can't go wrong, but you stop lead generating, you will drive that you'll ride the roller coaster on the downward swing. So it just gets to be the bigger the business that you have, the more opportunity that you're going to bring in, and you know, the more time that you're going to have to devote to lead generation and follow up, because you'll get to a point where it's like, I got so much stuff I can follow up with that I can't lead generate. I just don't have the time, is what I hear often. And that's a great problem to have. However, again, if you stop lead generating, you won't have opportunities to follow up with at that point. And then again, go down that roller coaster. Okay. So with that said, there's two ways to really lead generate. One is just checking in, touching base. You know, the personal level stuff, the small talk, shoot the breeze. How's the kids? How's the wife? How's the family? How's the dog? How's sports? Saw you went on vacation. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Happy birthday, etc. And first of all, that's all well and good. There's nothing wrong with it there. Okay. But if you stop there, then you're not maximizing your potential, is the point. And the way I phrase this is like, yeah, I'll bet on if I have an agent that I'm coaching that is following the activity plan to their economic model, and that says in order to close 12 units, you need to have 48 conversations each week. That agent goes out and has 48 conversations each week without fail, sometimes even more. A couple times it's a couple less. But they're on track for that level of activity, but they don't have purposeful lead generation strategies that they bring to those conversations. Don't get me wrong, I'll still bet on that agent to have some level of success. They're not going to reach their true potential. And they may even be killed, okay, but you're not going to reach your true potential. Versus, if you give me that same example, and you give me an agent who's performing to what the economic model is designed for in order to reach their goals, that gives a specific output of conversations that need to be made per week and appointments that need to be gone on per week, and people that you end up working with from those appointments and accepted offers that happen from those people you're working with and closings that occurs from those pending deals that you have. What they're going at the lead generation side with the hey, how you doing, and the relationship stuff, and then I'm calling because insert topic. I'll bet my house on that agent. I'll bet my life. So there's a difference. So sure, get to baseline as quickly as possible and just develop the muscles around just talking to people in general, communicating with people in general, building a database as big as you can by doing that. But the sooner that you get to this level 2 type of dynamic that I'm describing here, that's when the results are going to happen. That's when you're going to know the true trajectory of your career as a result of doing it. Well, so the question is, what if you're texting? The way I explain it is there's a hierarchy of communication effectiveness. And right now we're face to face, and I can have a more meaningful, impactful conversation to our relationship moving forward than I can if we're on a call. Or with those, this is perfect because there's people on Zoom right in front of my face, right? And then there's YouTube right in front of my face, right? So the effectiveness here, like I could reach out and shake you if I wanted to, and that becomes effective compared to I can't, I could shake the screen with these guys, but it doesn't have the same effect. Texting, you're still communicating, especially this day and age, it's great. I'm not taking a crap on it by any means.
I'm just like thinking when people my age.
Yeah.
Feel like they're gonna pick up. If I didn't talk to them for like a long time.
Sure. I get it.
Cause then, I would text them after that.
Yeah. It's fine.
And,
And it all counts.
okay. Well, if I do text someone, but I have it all in the same message. I think like if I don't put what I'm getting at in one text, then like they might not reply.
It's good to me if you just start the text passively, hey, how's it going? And that's it. Then you don't get a reply compared to like
Yeah.
a specific question or something
Fine,
you're
like
reaching out.
a normal conversation during text like that.
Right. Yeah, I get that. So trial and error. Now, here's the one thing I'll tell you. You mentioned it could be proven true, but the way you phrased it was a limiting belief of, I don't think they're going to pick up.
Mhm.
Once you try it 200 times and they don't, then come to me like, yeah, I tried this 200 times. They don't pick up. I got a text. Like, okay, game up.
Mhm.
Till then, play Mythbusters with your own limiting beliefs.
Mhm.
Now, don't get me wrong, so now practical discussion, like you're not wrong. This day and age, both across generations for the most part, people prefer texting versus phone call, right? Yeah. Now, I'll play devil's advocate here. We've evolved into default status, right? That's kind of grown to be the status quo. So when you're the person that's going against the grain, there's a certain level of value that's gained for that. So when you're the person that actually has the guts to make the phone call, to have an uncomfortable conversation, because it's uncomfortable for them too, right? So that's where it becomes, yeah, I would not call people just to say, hey, how you doing? And have it be totally awkward and doing that throughout the day 200 times. Because yeah, it'll just prove to be like, okay, that was cool. She called me, but it was kind of awkward and ended abruptly and didn't really know what to think of it, and that's okay. And that all still goes towards the memory part of this job, right? Versus like, wow, what a breath of fresh air, especially with the youngins out there, right? Like I'm an old soul. I'm 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 40. Okay, I'm trying to disclose that, but like I think like an old soul, and I can think at my age with people younger than me that it's respectable towards like, wow, they went and did that in an old school, brave type of manner. Good for them. You earned my respect, even if it was awkward, even if I didn't need anything. Right. Versus just like, okay, I get it. You're in sales, you're texting, you're not bringing anything to the table though. And I'm going to ignore that too. So food for thought. It's a different perspective on the, that hierarchy generational, form of communication that exists out there today. But I do think that's valid. And outside of being, young and having that opportunity, just the again, the status quo that exists to where it's like nobody's calling, and especially nobody's calling with value to provide.
A lot of people do it during the day, like, I feel like people are at work too.
Sure. So they're not going to pick up. That's okay. Well, if I would leave a message, and that's where it may be better, personal preference, but I feel like this is another status quo that's grown. I would leave a text versus a voicemail at this point in time. Like I hate when I get voicemail. Don't leave me a voicemail. If I call and I'll pick up, shoot me a text. Now you can also, I just learned this recently, but I'm a boomer. You can leave a voice text, right? And I think that's cool. So like text, voice text, then voicemail, if ever. All right, but voicemail is, I don't know how it evolved to this point, but it's like a pain in the butt to access. Sometimes they don't even come through, it feels like, and it's just like, just stop. Right. That makes sense.
Oh, can I
So go
can I
ahead.
can I ask a question about the phone calls? Let's
Yeah.
say let's say it's a repeat phone call, right? Let's say 3 months ago you made the phone call and now you're doing like another quarterly call to someone. What what then would you say? Because like with the initial phone call, that was like, oh hey, what's going on? How's your family? How you doing? I'm in real estate, blah, 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 blah. And they're like, oh, great. If I have anything, I'll let you know. But now you're going back to do your quarterly calls. What would you call and say? I was
Well, you're not a paid spokesperson, but that was a perfect segue into my next topic. So what to say, right? How to go about this. It's great to, okay, conceptual to actual, right? That's what you're telling us, Jason. So what the hell do I say? I don't know. So I think, like if you haven't, if you're new to the business, you haven't made the contacts with all or a portion of your database yet, yeah, you have the easy, kind of warm up touch, so to speak, where you can take the easy route and not necessarily have a value topic to provide, and just introduce yourself as being a real estate resource, tell them what you did, who you're working with, etc. And hey, I'm not asking you for business, but I'd love for you to keep me in mind if I can help with it. That can be your muscle building type of touch. And then conceptually speaking, here's how to think of this moving forward for the rest of your career. At most, you really only need 2 topics per quarter that you've crafted that bring value to the table to lead generate with. Well, one, I say per quarter because you're following the MREA, you should be in personal connection with everybody that you know 4 times a year. So once every 3 months, once per quarter, right? And I say 2 topics at most because one topic could be homeowner related for the people that are homeowners in your database, and the other is not homeowner related to cover, either out of town investors or the people that don't own homes that are local. That makes sense. So you can go at this to where like you go in the lab, come up with something you're going to use for everybody in your database for the next 3 months, and in the meantime, you've got 3 months to figure out what's going to be next. If you do that with, especially if you have a lot of non-homeowners in your database, then yeah, you should have something that's more geared towards renters or, investors could be, or, things of that nature, getting ready to buy. So here's how I want you to think about how to go about this. So we're talking, cliche, bring value, right? How do I bring value becomes a cliche type of thing. Well, let's make it as simple as it can be. And if you're, trying to impact somebody's wallet, you're trying to save them money or make a difference in their financial world, ultimately it doesn't get any more valuable than that, right? Here's some examples of how to do that. I would give you the concept of, for homeowners, you could be calling once a year with, hey, I'm calling because I want to do an annual review, an annual check-in on your home. Would be the concept of how to craft this. You have 5 minutes, right? Yeah, no, what do you got for me? Okay. Got some questions for you. I want to see if there's any opportunity where in these topics, there could be an opportunity to save some money or take a look at things that help you, moving forward. First question would be, have you gotten, have your property taxes been reassessed, or has your home been reassessed, or do you have any concerns about reassessed and your property taxes going up? And they say, yeah, actually, we just got this letter in the mail a few months ago saying that our assessment went from it was 150 before and now it's 300. Okay. Well, let's take a look at that. Have you gotten the new tax bills yet? Did they go up significantly? Do you feel like your home is not worth 300,000 in that example? And that may be an opportunity to ultimately help them fight their assessment and to therefore reduce their property taxes would be, the result, the benefit of doing that, i.e. save them money. If you're the one that's proactively calling, now I'm going to give you this concept in an annual review format, but that could just be one topic or one script to run with right there of, hey, have you been reassessed recently or do you have any concerns of being reassessed? I'm able to help people fight their assessments if you're interested. Second topic in this annual review concept is around property insurance. For the most part, everybody knows that the insurance industry is a complete dumpster fire right now. And frankly has been. And also that most people just don't want to talk about insurance. Right? Like relate to yourself. It's just one of those bills you get, it feels dirty, you hate it, it's expensive, you just want to get it over with and done as quickly as possible. Well, this involves having an insurance rep that you're partnered with that is going to be willing to help your people. And Elmwood Agency is a great resource for that if you're looking for anybody. But to approach your people with, have you looked at your insurance policies recently? To A, find out if you have proper coverage, and B, if you're paying a fair rate for that coverage. So if you haven't, I have somebody who would be happy to look at them for you and tell you. They just take an honest look at things and they'll tell you if you're good or not. And if you're good, they're not going to ask you to switch if you're getting a rate that you're already paying for the coverage that you need. They can't beat. So if they can save you money, obviously there's an opportunity. But also, and I'll speak to my personal journey here, like some people think about insurance differently than most, where it's just like, how do I get the cheapest coverage possible? There are plenty of circumstances where it's like, I'd like to have good coverage so that when I actually need to use this insurance, I'm covered. You have the cheapest insurance possible, you're probably getting screwed when you need to use that coverage. Right. So it's kind of this catch-22 double-edged sword in the, as far as insurance goes. I'll give you a personal example on my end. Like our house, my kids are 10 and 7. Our house in the neighborhood, my choice is like where everybody comes to play. Right. Rather have the kids in my house and God knows where. So I was thinking, after seeing like a dozen kids in my backyard at one point, I'm like, somebody's going to get stabbed in the eye with a stick unintentionally, and I'm going to get sued. And I called my insurance agent and said, up the coverage. Here's what's going on. What do I need? Increase the umbrella policy. Like, yeah, got it. No problem. We do this all the time. I get it. I agree with you. You're smart. Let's do it. Versus if I didn't have that coverage, and God forbid something terrible like happens, could really be in a bad position. So give people perspective while you're lead generating, right? Again, the storytelling side of things to be able to, provide value that way. Third piece of the annual review concept would be, financing related questions. Hey, do you have a mortgage? And do you have any questions around your current financing that you have? Or do you feel there's any needs or opportunities that you need to look at financing options for? In this market where we're at right now, especially with those that have owned for a long period of time, probably not as big of an opportunity when you're talking with somebody who's like, I have a low loan balance and it's at 3.875% interest. They're not going to be refinancing unless they need to, right? But how many people are thinking about how they can use financing or refinancing or even the equity in their home as an opportunity for capital and to tap into that equity if they've been there for a while, or to, find a way like maybe there is a reason they need to refinance to a higher rate. There's always plenty of reasons or I shouldn't say it that way. There's always refinancing that's going on regardless of the interest rates. So it becomes surprising for us when we hear about these high rates comparatively speaking to low rates, but people's personal stuff will require a need. If you're not asking, they're probably not going to share that with you. If you're there to ask and be a resource to them, you could be the hero. The fourth aspect of this annual review would be, do you have any repairs, renovations, upgrades to your home that you'd be looking to make that I can help you make a connection to a local contractor that hopefully provides a great quality experience and good rate. Now that was intensive to like, hey, your annual review time. But you could grow to a point where like your people know that you're calling in Q4 with happy holidays and time for your annual review to make sure that 2026 is everything you want it to be. And then they get the same call in 2026 in Q4. But now guess what? You only need 3 more topics. Or you could break those out and use one by one, or only get to one of them depending on how much time is spent or what. Now, the reason why to lead generate with specific topics is you get them talking more about real estate
And that is going to give you the best opportunity and probability more so of identifying whether or not there's actually a lead right there in that moment or not. One. And two, you're just cementing yourself the most effective way because you know, you're providing a professional level of value that frankly your competition isn't going to. And frankly, again, this day and age, the opportunity exists where like who does this in any industry? Like, when's the last time you got a call from your financial advisor? When's the last time you got a call from your insurance rep? When has there been a good intention, free value provided type of call without a hook to it? Because the hook isn't like, well, I can really only help you if you're willing to sign a buyer agency agreement with me for the next 5 years. So that I know if I'm investing my time by helping you, that it's going to lead to a payoff because I'm in sales. That's not what it's about. 90+% of the work that you're going to do in this business is pro bono for free. If you can wrap your head around that now and act accordingly and look for ways to provide value at a high level, business will happen. I guarantee it. Thoughts, questions? Now, two things. One, I think AI and two, social media need to be brought up as often as I can on a weekly basis here. All right. So the AI usage of this would be like just use your AI tool of choice and talk to it and communicate with it to help with the ideas and scripts specifically and strategies and concepts and all of it. It's basically like your research and development personal assistant that you've hired that's by your side at all times, following you along as you're the employer, they're the employee type of relationship that you can put to work. So you don't have to use all the power mentally to craft these things from the start, and more so you can just refine based on what it tells you, what it gives you. Keep refining. With AI, like, do not ever take the first whatever it gives you and run with that. Two, the social media point would be, okay, if we're talking about lead generation strategies to implement, each lead generation strategy like this should be a social media strategy as well. Right? So if you say you land on, you're going to go out today, you're going to go develop a relationship with an insurance rep, and you want to tell them, hey, I'm going to call the 300 people in my database and see if they want their policy audited to try to save them money and make sure they're properly covered. Are you okay if you get those inquiries? They say yes. And then game on, you start doing this. But then you also have a social media plan to go with it that has a call to action that ultimately gets you more leads inbound from your network and the ability to expand the network by getting new inquiries from this. Pretty powerful. Questions?
Social media wise, how do you extract some of the people from social media and get them in your database without becoming too pitchy, right? Like, so I mean, there's some people that I do know or some people that I might be an associate to me on social media. There's a lot of people actually, but trying to extract them and get them into my database without seeming like I'm just trying to load their email with real estate stuff. I don't know. I'm trying to see because I haven't done smart plans yet. I've done like a few with the emails that I have, but I noticed in my database I have more numbers than emails. So I'm just trying to see.
Call them and ask.
Hmm?
Call them and ask. DM them and ask.
Okay, just do it.
Love
Just
that.
ask.
Yeah,
Okay.
and do that to 200 people and let me know if you get absolutely zero results, but that's not gonna be the case in that example. Right,
Okay.
is, hey, people know, right? So the one thing I would tell you is try to find a mutual connection. You're ultimately reaching out to build a relationship to help with your business. So to just come out and say that, but also like, what line of business are you in and how can I benefit you? Becomes powerful. I'm looking to connect to add you to, you know, a newsletter campaign that I send once a month. Would that be okay? And what line of work are you in so that I can support your business?
Huh, okay, I can do that. That's
There you go.
doable.
Love it. All right, I'm gonna touch on some FAQs that came in. I'm gonna start with, because this is in line with finding the business, essentially, going out, getting it, lead generating, being proactive. And the topic of FSBOs, for sale by owners, is what the acronym of the FSBO is. And how to go about it, I guess, in terms of just like where to find them. Generally speaking, if you see a for sale by owner listed on the MLS, that's going to be they're under an agency agreement at that point. It's just called a limited service agreement where the real estate agent then listed it on the MLS, and there's just companies designed for this too. But understanding you as an agent, I wouldn't recommend doing this, but you as an agent have the ability to take on a limited service agreement and post it on the MLS, and all the calls go to the seller. But if you see it on the MLS, then that's the equivalent of them being under agency agreement with another agent. You shouldn't go after it. If it's just a for sale by owner listed on Zillow or some other real estate website, you confirm they're not listed with a brokerage of some sort on the MLS, then that you could go after. What I would say is just understand that you're not the only one, right? You're not the only realtor thinking proactively to grow their business by contacting for sale by owners. And I don't want to throw out a number of what percentage of agents are, but there's a fair amount of them. It wouldn't surprise me if every given for sale by owner on the market gets at least 50 phone calls from realtors trying to win them over, right? The approach becomes kind of, nothing's really perfect to work, right? Because you're going to have the experience, or the homeowners, I should say, sellers are going to have the experience where you may be the 49th agent that is called, and they're just ticked off because they can sniff that you're not really having a buyer interested in their house, but rather you're doing your sales thing, and it gets frustrating as that consumer over time, right? So understand that, and how to approach it. You're gonna have to find your way in terms of because one example could be to have a buyer that you'd like to preview the home for.
I'm the buyer.
Okay,
I could be the buyer.
sure, you could be. You just gotta always think in a manner to where it's like, okay, if you're gonna win by doing that activity, and then you build a relationship with that person, are you continuing to lie to them throughout time, or is this just a one-off type of thing, right? Now, if you're legitimately looking to buy, like, game up, right? So I'll be vulnerable and honest to say, like, for sale by owners isn't a targeted tactic on my end with my business. And the reason is from a standpoint of like just knowing the market, and two things. One, like,
Yeah, whatever you pull, whatever you sell.
yeah, they very well may sell, and there's not a need for you. And these people, have preconceived notion to where they're doing this already, that, you know, they don't want to work with a realtor anyway. Now, the opposite of that is that there are sellers that are like, look, I'm just gonna try this for a few days, and if I can't get what I want, then I'm putting it on the market next week. So there's plenty of opportunity, you know, with that said, it's just kind of a competitive nature and, you know, the time that you need to invest to do it at a high level, if it's gonna be primary resource type of activity for your business. Like to me, it's one of these activities where it's like, okay, I've done, you know, the three other priorities for my business for the day and I have time left over. All right, let me get to the FISBOs. But that's just me. I'm not, here's where I'll draw the line. Like, if you haven't contacted your people and grown your own database yet, do not contact FISBOs yet. Like the analogy that I use for a topic like this is Thanksgiving dinner, turkey and gravy, right? The turkey is the people that you know and that you're already in relationship with. That's where you're going to get the business from. The gravy becomes all these other online leads or first sale by owners or expires or door knocking or things of that nature, the people that you're going to meet and add to your database over time.
Can you, oh,
Awesome.
instead of the owner, can you sign an agreement with them? And they can keep doing whatever they were doing. And they, you know, as an agent, leave their house. And then they can do, and they can, you know, they will appear zero as a possible owner, and you can.
No, because if they're on the MLS and the first sale by owner listing is going to be gone.
You cannot be doing like, you say, hey, you can do whatever you're doing, let's sign this, and I wanna be with you at the same time, looking for opportunities. So you do what you're doing, and we're gonna be two people working together for the same goal.
Well,
Something like that. I don't know.
so in theory, you can sign an exclusive right to sell. There can be exclusions to it, but just to even though it's not a black and white answer to approach it, you know, objectively is like it's too muddy because it's like you're gonna go do what you're gonna do, and then they're gonna continue to do what they're gonna do. Chances are they're gonna be like, no, that was me with whatever buyer comes to the table, or there's a high chance of it.
Or you can do the non-exclusive then.
Yeah, but listing a home on the MLS, like there isn't a non-exclusive right to sell agreement. You know what I mean? You can do that with a buyer agency. Say like, I'm representing you for this weekend only, or for this house only. But not selling.
Jason, what about pre-foreclosures? Do you think those are productive?
So, yeah, so, and that's, you know, what a pre-foreclosure is you'll see it pop up in real estate, or I'm sorry, you'll see it in Realist, and then you'll also see like on sites like Zillow where a home is tagged on as a pre-foreclosure. What that means is they're delinquent, and the foreclosure process has started. Now, the story that I always tell to give context as to how this plays out. Our first home, we bought it as an East Ironquois. We bought it in 2008, and we sold it in 2015. And this house that I'm thinking of that ended up being foreclosed on was in distress and vacant and abandoned when we bought it in 2008, our house. So a different house than the one we bought, okay? But a house down the street was just abandoned, sitting there when we got there in 2008. Turns out ended up being a foreclosure. That house didn't hit the market. It was like 2013, I think. So it took 5 years for that whole process to play out. So these foreclosures to go through take a long time. One. Now, with that said, there could be a lead generation strategy and tactic around, okay, finding a way to pull this list of pre-foreclosures from Realist and then find a way to get the contact information to, you know, target that list specifically to essentially, you know, get across the notion of like, hey, like, I want to be able to help, you know, no offense, I see you're in pre-foreclosure. what can I do to help with that? What can I do to help you get out of it? Just gotta understand, like now you're, going after people that are in distress, getting in their business, right? I'm not telling you that to deter the interest to the activity, but giving you the context of some of the buzzsaws that you might run into. Because oftentimes they have equity and they could just sell their house and get out of the mess that they're in. So maybe you're the one that convinces them of that.
Is there a way you can, in the MLS, you can see how many showings the house is having? You can,
Just by schedule, like you could see what you would schedule and showing.
well, like you say,
Yeah,
the house
yeah,
been in
yeah.
the market for 10 days.
Yeah, you won't see it.
You won't.
You as the listing agent would, but yeah. That's why, so as an activity, like if you show something tomorrow, delayed is till following Monday, you show it tomorrow and your buyer's hot on it, I would be setting up a trigger on my end for every morning to look at the showing activity for the rest of the week. So that I have a full pulse of that listing of what activity played out, and I'm not guessing for my bride,
Okay.
right? But yeah, that's really the only way, outside of asking the agent, what kind of activity they've had.
No, because I was watching it is on the MLS my showing, so you can purchase the $15. You can see it, but like how many show there for a bracket. So 350 for how many
Yeah.
showings the bracket has, and something like that. But not like a specific house. Like
Right,
there's no way to do it.
not for the competing listings.
Yeah.
All right, really, I'm gonna go. We got a bunch of quick hitters I'm gonna get through. If anybody's got to hop off, you can. All right, PRIA meetings. There's a Facebook page where they post everything. PRIA is a investor group. Yeah, Freedom First. Uh,
What is that?
FFREI. Yeah, FFREIA.com. And those are great networking events. There's a lot of, successful investors and a lot of people, that are doing the same thing that you're doing by attending that would be there. But I'm for that. Best ways to find attorneys who handle estates, divorces, bankruptcies. Are you speaking from because I have a referral I need to give, or you want to get business from them? Both. The referral piece, I would, word of mouth before you go to a Google search, right? So, whatever attorney you're working with now, hey, who do you handle estates, divorces, bankruptcies, or who should I know? If you're looking for the purpose of, lead generation activity to try to earn their, business from the clients that they're working with, I'm not deterring it at all. Chances are they're going to give that business to a close relationship or a close partner that they're already in business with that's sending that business. So it's a really tough thing to penetrate. So again, like if you have time left in your day to where lead generated your database, you'd say if door knocking is a primary resources, FISBOs are a primary resources, you've done those activities too, and it's like, I want to see if I can get in to, get more attorney connections and see if I can work that, that plan from here. And, a cold call type of thing.
Okay, and then for like if I found like a home for sale from out of state or whatever, and I want to have that, and I have a buyer for it. I want that to be the attorney for the, how do I like know what attorneys? That's gonna go through it.
Well, so you just need a real estate attorney. So in this example where you're representing a buyer, they're purchasing a home for sale from an estate. That estate has nothing to do with that buyer other than that's the seller and they're not required to complete a property condition disclosure. Other than that, it's just normal real estate transaction that you would want to have, normal real estate attorney linked with.
Mhm.
Does that make sense? So the estate attorney would be representing the estate as the seller to that home. They may not even be doing the real estate at closing. Because that's a separate like attorney transaction with the estate. Most of them will. But does that make sense? Ray had a question about contingent buyers and how to get them to sell their house or how to figure out how to navigate the transaction when you have a buyer lead but a home to sell and they don't want to sell the home prior to finding something to purchase is pretty typical. The biggest thing that you didn't mention is the financing products that are out there that would allow the buyer to be non-contingent in order to purchase. So one of them would be a bridge loan, which is, taking the equity that the homeowner has and tapping into that to allow them to have the cash funds to be non-contingent and to qualify for the next purchase. And they can get a short-term bridge loan on that equity in order to purchase their next house. At that point, what typically plays out is that, okay, we found this house, we got an accepted offer, congratulations, we're non-contingent, we gotta hurry up and get this house on the market and get it sold. Because either you could, oftentimes time it up to where you still close, relatively around the same time. Or if there is, you're buying the home first with the bank's bridge loan in order to be non-contingent, you don't want to pay short-term interest too long. So there is all right, we got to get this other home closed. But in this market where the seller's market is so strong, unless the strategy is just totally missed, we've been doing a lot of these over the years now where it's like you're buying non-contingent, you have a home to sell and you need it to sell. Desperately, right? Like you cannot own two homes at once is what most people are going to be telling you. And knock on wood, I haven't run into a horror story yet. So it's just, there's a different level of strategy and conversation that's needed. But I don't want to put too much out there now because what I'd rather encourage you is you get with me on those specific scenarios that you have so that I can give you the individualized custom strategy based on the context that there is.
You got to figure out a disadvantage that if you have a buyer that is using.
No, because really it's not necessarily something that's even addressed on the pre-qualification. Yeah. The bank's just saying, here you go, we're gonna let you be a non-contingent buyer. All that's happening behind the scenes between the buyer and the bank. So you got to make sure that they understand what they're getting into so that, even though it's really the bank's responsibility and the loan officer's responsibility to educate on, but you don't want to be the one getting the call after closing. It's like, what do you mean they're charging me interest for this bridge loan?
Yeah,
It's not very high,
right?
Yeah, it's short-term interest, so you don't want to have it for months on end.
So you apply for a bridge loan with the lender, right? And you put money to buy a house. So okay. So you don't apply to the bridge loan until you find a house.
No, this is all part of the financing process, pre-qualification. Yeah.
You don't have to pay.
Because the lender's gonna say, hey, we can't prove you to be non-contingent, or you don't have the money to be non-contingent. Right, and a good lender is gonna think outside the box and say, okay, well, that's not just it. We can look at this option. It's called a bridge loan.
Gotcha. But you are part of that buyer, so you already okay. So you find the house, you get a bridge loan, you do the closing with the house, right? And then you put the old house on the market.
Old house is likely on the market soon after you got an accepted offer.
Oh, okay.
right? So that you can time up the process to not have to use that bridge loan at all or for long.
Okay. So that is better option than, like I said, like put the house in the market and then put like a contingency that we're gonna rent her out for a few months.
Depends,
Buy the house.
depends. Everything circumstantial.
Financially talking about my house, I'm saying financially.
It's not, you know, it could be, I'm not trying to.
Yeah,
Sure,
it's
but
not
I'm
like
not
check
sure.
and lock.
Yeah, exactly. I'm trying to make a point that it really, really depends on all circumstances involved. So that, again, when you have these types of situations or any situation, you're getting with myself, you're getting with, you know, transaction coach that's involved when you get to that point and rock and roll. So you're not at it alone. It's, you know, because it's whatever, you know, just you could go to Mortgage 101 tomorrow and they talk about bridge loans and you know that's the training part of it. It's not like okay, now you got everything you need, right? You need the support to apply it in real time. That's what we're here for. You asked pros and cons between land and building something, you know, buying land, building brand new versus buying something existing. There's pros and cons for each side, and really, you know, the answer to that question with not a direct answer again, but is, you know, depends on what you've uncovered in the consultation and what their goals and their needs and their wants are and what's best for them as to how to go about that. So it really depends on the situation as a whole to be able to say like, yeah, you know what, building for you is possible. And based on what you want, it probably does make sense to focus on that because you want something brand new and brand new in this location and in this price range and this, you know, fitting what you want. Found one that sold in the past year, so maybe we should look at, you know, and that could also, you know, be a qualifying thing too, to where like if you explain it that way and then they're like, well, all right, I mean, yeah, that'd be nice if we could get it that way, but look, at the end of the day, as long as it's in this location where we want to be, and it's close to the school and in the school district we want to be, and it's got 4 beds and 2.5 baths, like if it's built in 1960, as long as it's in good shape, we'll be okay. Right. Then the last thing you mentioned was rentals. How to handle rental leads or people that want to rent. Well, one, here's what I'll tell you, context here. Rentals are not predominantly listed on the MLS because our market hasn't, you know, had a need for it yet. So what that means is most landlords are able to be successful just by going direct to their tenant base and not having to use and therefore pay a realtor to help with it. Context I'll give you is in markets like New York City, right? Like there are agents that make a very good living off of just dealing with rentals alone. So totally different marketplace. With that said, you could represent a renter and get paid for it. You're just not going to get paid by the landlord. So you need a buyer agency agreement, you know, with whatever compensation you want to charge for them based on whatever you're going to be doing. Then you can be out there hunting on, you know, where the rentals are listed, like Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist, apartments.com. And sure, there are some options on the MLS.
So how do you get 3% of the?
You get whatever you want to charge. At all times, you get whatever you want to charge.
No, I said for, whatever percentage for the monthly rent.
No, it doesn't necessarily work like that.
The entire leasing.
It's up to you and the tenant based on what they want to pay. Well, this is outside of that, you know, because 3% of a year lease at $1,000 is $12,000. 3% of that, are you willing to work for that? Probably not. Hopefully not. Well, they shouldn't say that. Good for you if you want.
Yeah.
Right? Versus like, hey, I can help you. The landlord's not going to pay me. If you want my help, here's what I'm going to do. I charge $1,000. You're going to have to pay me that. So do you want my help or not? Not that that's the well thought out script, but so more so, and especially in this, you know, you're building your business mode of things. These are contacts added to your database. If you do help people with their rental, and you stay in touch with them, pretty safe assumption that they'll be reaching out to you when they're ready to buy. Gotta run. Thanks for hopping on, everybody.